So we had a little bit of a ho-hum end of the week for the market today. We have kind of a couple big picture things at play. Obviously, we have increasing demand. We have places like SeaWorld and amusement parks that are kind of fleshing out their plans to open up. But we have this thing today where the president basically just said they're leaving the WHO, and there's just a whole lot of conflict between the U.S. and China at this point, along with yesterday's announcement that they're not treating Hong Kong as autonomous to China, which means that all the special perks that you had if you were a business or even a stock exchange like the stock exchange in China doesn't get special treatment that it did when the British owned it and what it continued to do under the one country, two systems framework. So you saw the market go down a little bit today, but then it ramped up. So if you look at today, this isn't the Dow necessarily. The Dow itself, let's take a look here. So the Dow itself was down 1% today, and it got down to a low, very similar to yesterday actually, where it went down about 4.5%. But then it quickly rebounded, went up about 2%, and then settled back down and moved up over after hours. But overall, there wasn't a ton of movement. There weren't any big movers. In fact, there's really only one stock that had any really significant movement that we owned or currently had on our watch list, and that was Yuko. And so this was our ETF, basically, that measures, it's a long story short, but it basically measures, they make a profit between the short-term and long-term oil futures. So this one started today at roughly around 21, and it moved up $3. So this is a nice little move up today, and this is the largest holding we have is in this particular fund. So, and 137,000 people. That's interesting. I didn't realize that many people owned it, but basically it went down to 11. Now it's at 24, and it has a massive upside. So, with that being said, today we were pretty flat, even though the market was down 1%. We always beat the market, and then after hours it went up almost a point. So, still, we're going to beat the market pretty much every single time, and today was no different. So, today, a couple things. Number one, when the market did go down, it triggered our buy of TXMD, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday. I want to say it's Therapies MD. Is that what it's called? Let's take a look here. Therapeutics MD. So it's a Friday, so I got my beer stein ready, and we have a nice West Coast IPA that we're going to enjoy while we're talking stocks. So this one has an 88% buy, 72,000 people own it. If we look at the year, it follows basically the traditional kind of biotech company where it doesn't necessarily have this massive fall off. This was February 20th, so it had a little bit of a fall off, a jump up. If we look at the last 3 months, had a pretty big spike going from $1 to $1.79, then resettled. So I thought if we get it for $1.10, that's good, considering it has, a nice little upside. And specifically when we're looking at that, we will look at under candidates. It has a price target around $7.25. We get $1.10. That's a 6 1/3 times upside. So with an 88% buy rating, it's an absolute no-brainer, and I'm thrilled that we got that today. So looking at our chart, Yuko is moving. Well, first of all, before we get to the chart, Yuko is finally under 20%, and it actually took a big jump, so it's almost at 14. We're almost at a break-even point. I mean, very well next week we could actually get a break-even point for our cost basis, and after that it's just profit city. So, but looking at our upside, Yuko is always going to be number one, at least for the time being. IVR and MFA, we don't necessarily have any news on them, so I'm holding off on that. I did look at them today, but there's they're basically following the same chart, and they're probably going to do the same thing. So until we see anybody start to talk about them or have any movement at all, I'm just going to leave that alone. There's no sense in putting a position in on that. Azul, just questions about the South American airline market. But fundamentally, if I wanted to buy anything today, buying it because it's a little bit under cost was a good thing. 33% buy is not the greatest in the world. And then having almost a 5 times upside is really good, but no real reason to do that. We just bought Velocity Financial, which is good. I was looking at 2 Harbors, and I'm still considering that. It's only 14% on the over-under, comparing the price of the stock versus our cost basis, which is pretty low considering it has a 78% buy, and the analysts love it, which is why it's in green. Beyond that, there's not really any great jumps. The next one is ICAGI, but I'm trying to really limit the airline sector for right now. Beyond that, we're just going to sit on it. And then what we're really looking to do is try to find a stock where it takes a bit of a hit, where a good buy just jumps up, and then we'll bring some money in from the sidelines and pump up our portfolio a little bit. But overall, quiet end of the day. Looking at our holdings, Crestwood Equity overtook Braemar, and we're getting close to our 200% return. I mean, tripling our money is awesome. Braemar Resort is tracking right behind it. PVAC is, we'll highlight these just so we can keep these here. Crestwood Equity, Braemar, Penn, Virginia at 122. Eldorado Resorts at 100, which was kind of right around 100 anyway. And Redwood Trust is coming up close to 100 right there. So we're looking really good on that. Beyond that, yeah, we're looking really good. The number didn't change a whole lot, so we're still around 17,000, and we have about an 83% gain. So we'll clear this out. Actually, yeah, let's clear the contents of that and clear out this box. As far as limit buys, if the market goes up, we still have a long way to go with American, so I don't see that happening anytime soon. Flexion has to drop from 11.43 to 10. Probably not going to happen for a little bit. And we'll look at futures to see kind of which way that trends. Soho, which is my little, I don't know, I just have a soft spot for this one. I think something tells me it just has a huge upside. So I do want to get on that. Right now it's at 294. If it goes down to 240, we'll buy it. And we may actually increase this position as well. I just can't really tell you why. Something around is telling me that this stock is going to be a nice little darling. So beyond that, our holdings, we're on pace for about 253 still. And we have a couple limit orders in here, puts it at about 256. Now, let's go to our indices. So the indices overall, Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ are all up. Particularly NASDAQ, the stock one's up 1.3%. The Dow is looking relatively flat. We go to CNN. For some reason, they have this a lot higher. So let's refresh these out. Yeah, still showing 109. I'm not really sure why these are all that different. So, but I like looking at this one. So it's up 109. So I think they're looking good over the weekend. And I think just all the craziness in Minnesota might be affecting things. Who knows? And then their article here, the economy is reopening with job cuts keep coming. And I think part of that is from the PPP program. Basically, that program's running out in June. And if you have places that are small businesses where there's limits on their capacity, you have restaurants where there's limits on the people can sit in there, it's going to necessitate, without any outside stimulus, it's going to necessitate some stimulus. And I got a junk mail who tried to call me, but outside of the stimulus where they're giving them money, they're going to have to hand people some pink slips or reduce hours. So I think that's the big picture of where that is. Not a big surprise. If you've been paying attention to things on a global scale or a macro scale, you've seen it coming a long way. Beyond that, any stocks that are moving pre-market, we don't have anything here. We don't have anything here, which is kind of about right. So with that being said, we'll pay attention to the news over the weekend. I usually check this on Sunday just to see where things stand, but most of the news is really good. The China one was one that just that worries people, just from a supply chain standpoint. But we'll see what happens. I think there's generally a ton of optimism. You have increased demand. That brings up oil prices. That brings up the velocity of consumer transactions, which basically means the pace in which people buy and sell and trade things increases, and that tends to increase people's optimism in the future, which will increase the stock prices. So, while that's being done, I have a beer or two in my future. Also, I have 2 propane tanks I got to go fill because I think we're doing a happy hour or a fire pit thing tonight. So, that being said, enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.